Hey everyone, my name is Shiva Kitasamy and I'm an instructor here at the Small Business Education Program within Nevada Extension. Today's course, we're going to be talking about how to get food products into stores. There's also going to be a follow-up class called Getting Food Products into Farmers Markets. And these are also reoccurring in-person classes that we teach here in Southern Nevada. But it is in attachment with this new initiative we are starting up here in Nevada called the Food Business Center. So if you have any type of food business product, whether that's a custom packaged good or a food truck or a restaurant, and you're sourcing locally, we'd love to hear more about your business and tell you about some of the resources we have to offer. And there is going to be an interest form down in the description. You're just going to fill that out. It's just going to ask some simple questions about who you are and what type of business you are creating. And one of us on the team will actually get back to you in regards to all the resources we have through this new initiative and just how we can help you be successful with your new business or existing business. So that being said, let's get right into this course. All right, guys, so we're going to get started into this course, which is, again, getting your food products into stores. So these are going to be some of the topics we're going to be talking about, some quick highlights. We're going to learn how to understand your market. We're going to learn how to create a great sales pitch to then approach retailers. And then we're going to talk about how to nurture and build that relationship after the fact and handle distribution and logistics. We'll also talk about some success stories as well in regards to food products that were made in-house and were sold at stores after the fact. So let's get right into it with understanding the market. With any new sales or market channels that any business goes to, if you don't do the right amount of research, you could probably fail when you go into that market or channel. So before you even look at going into selling your food product into stores, research your market. Analyze what consumers are doing, what their preferences are. Maybe your specific demographic doesn't go to physical stores. Maybe they respond more to online shopping. So definitely see what your consumer is doing and then figure out what those target stores would be. More importantly, I think the best way about going about this too, another good way is assessing your competitors' products. So if you have competitors in your specific space, see what stores work for them and then maybe target a similar strategy, or maybe find out what stores they're not at and go to those stores maybe. So definitely these two things are going to be crucial when you first start out with doing the initial research and understanding your market. Now, preparing your products is next. First up, you're going to want to make sure you have quality and safety standards. This is going to be crucial in ensuring your customers are going to trust your product. And this is ultimately going to be a yes or no for if you can go into a store. For a list of resources, I compiled these different categories. So FDA for good manufacturing process practices, USDA for food safety inspection service, and furthermore, I would even recommend calling your local and state health departments, as they can give you more clarity on things that you might not have known of to be able to sell at local stores. And if you are selling internationally, the Codex resource is going to be great. Now, when you are developing your product, just like any other product, make sure you have a unique selling proposition. So when you did create your product, there should have been some unique things about your product. And knowing these unique selling propositions is going to be advantageous for you and really is going to make sure you have a successful launch at some of these stores, let's say against your competitors, for example. So knowing these unique features of your product will come in handy later in this presentation. Next is packaging. So now you kind of know what your product is per se, because you already probably have your product. Knowing those unique selling propositions can also help with the design of your packaging. So let's say your product is very clean, simple, straightforward. Maybe you want the packaging to emulate that sort of branding language. So creating something that's functional while following some of your brand language is going to be really cool. And try to find some unique product designs that are visually appealing so that customers will choose you over your competitors' products. But more importantly, make sure you comply with regulations so that you're ensuring your product meets all relevant regulations to ultimately avoid any type of legal issue and ultimately keep building more of that consumer trust. Now, let's get into the pricing strategy. So when it comes to pricing any type of product, that's probably the most asked question that I get and that I've seen people ask in podcasts or business classes. How do I price my product? And I would recommend doing a whole cost analysis. So figuring out what all your costs are. This includes production costs. So this is everything that it takes to actually produce the product. And then what are your distribution costs? So evaluating what your max amount would be for distribution. Once you got those costs down, you're going to be able to set the right price, as you're going to see what other competitors are doing, and you might want to set your price. If your product is of higher value, you might want to price above them. But if you're trying to be the cheaper alternative, let's say, or cheaper but better product, you might want to see what your competitors are charging and charge lower. And ultimately, knowing your profit margins, knowing your break-even points are going to be crucial when negotiating your contracts and your terms, which we'll talk about in just a sec. But being able to calculate your profit margins will give you a better strategy when it comes to pricing, as you'll know how much you're making in profits. It's that simple. Now, creating a good sales pitch. Now, in my opinion, this is probably the best and most fun part about this journey, is basically your sales pitch. So you're going to want to craft a really compelling story. So first thing first, what is your brand story? What is the story behind why you created the product? Being able to create this will help resonate with your customers on an emotional level. It'll help enable your customers to connect to the product, connect to your brand. And if you can also tie in those product benefits into this story, even better. So I'll give you an example. You might be one day, this might have been your story. You might have been trying to find a product within this specific space, but nothing was there. So you said, hey, let me take it into my own hands and create this product. And so you do, and you explain why you valued those benefits in this new product you were creating. Being able to translate it like that, I think is probably the best way to kind of tie in your product benefits and brand story. Something that was missing in the market, and relaying that why that mattered to you as an individual and why you needed it. Coming out at that angle is really going to help create that compelling story. Now, in terms of your sales pitch, you're also going to want to look at sales materials. So things like brochures and samples are going to be huge when it comes to selling your food products. But more importantly, when you are doing a sales pitch to a manager of a store or just any type of individual that is trying to bulk order your product, you're going to want to also create some sort of presentation deck as well as brochures to be able to, for them to know what your product is and what are the key benefits. You're going to want to make sure the presentation deck is visually engaging. So if going back to your branding language, if your brand is very simple, cohesive, clean, you might want to replicate that when you're designing the presentation deck. So make sure you have a very engaging presentation deck that also follows your brand's DNA. Now, approaching retailers. This is probably the most stressful part, I would say, as you probably have nerves, as you don't know what to do. But it's all about identifying the right contacts. So knowing what type of buyers you're going to need a contact. So where your consumers are going, what stores are they going to? And from there, you're going to know what stores to contact. And from there, you're going to want to engage with those store managers. You're going to want to ask them, if you have a competitor in your space, you're going to probably want to ask those store managers how those competitors are doing. Are they moving product? Are they not moving products? What are specific days that they're really popular and they're selling out of shelves? Being able to engage with store managers and asking those questions and also letting them know about your product is really going to help set the stage up for a successful contract and agreement to be able to sell at that store. But there are some other ways about going about this. You can do the cold call and cold email route where you craft very short, sweet messages that you can email or even cold call and initiate that spark, initiate that interest. I would recommend try to contact as many individuals. The more there are so many fish in the sea that once you tug on one, something's bound to happen, right? So definitely getting the word out there, contacting constantly, calling small stores, large stores, whatever. Doing those cold calls and emails are going to be crucial. But more importantly, try to go to some food trade shows and some networking events. Some unique networking events that you might think of are not the traditional business ones, but let's say you're selling some sort of snack for runners, right? You might want to go to a run club and sample out your product there. So definitely kind of think in creative ways when you are going to these networking events and going to individuals. As networking events don't have to be the traditional sense. They could be in a creative sense depending on what your food product is. Now, probably the most creative part of this whole process is making the pitch. Some basic presentation etiquette is be clear and concise. Keep it short, keep it sweet. And more importantly, highlight any key benefits that you got when you were looking at researching and understanding your market. So really, really highlight those key benefits, as when you are giving this this presentation, this pitch, you're going to want to tell a general story that you want them to follow along with. And it goes back to that story that we were talking, that brand story. So highlighting those key benefits as much as possible within your presentation is going to set you up for success. Now, there are going to be some objections. Prepare some responses. So anticipate they are going to ask questions, all right? And you might want to bait them. You might want to ask them to ask those, you might want to make your presentation in a way to leave out specific things for them to ask those questions. And those questions, if you're able to make it in your favor of them asking a question that sounds stupid for them to ask, even better to you. So make sure you kind of have a list of questions you're going to probably hear from them and be able to have some responses for those questions, as it's going to show confidence. It's going to show that you know what you're doing. But more importantly, these objections, make sure you're open to feedback and being flexible. These store managers know their stores from in and out, more or less. They know what works. They know what your competitors are doing. They know what's working and what's not. So they're going to know more or less what works and what doesn't. And this feedback is probably going to be crucial for you, whether it's this deal with this store or another store. It's really going to help you be able to succeed in the store model, the physical store model, if you will. Now, let's say they go forward with your product. Yay, congrats. Now you're going to want to negotiate terms. Now, when it comes to your terms, you're going to probably talk about pricing and margins, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make some money from this little business that you have. So ensure that you know your pricing strategy, so know all your profit margins, your costs, everything, and provide a competitive pricing that will be able to help sustain your business, but also make sure you have a lower rate or a competitive rate, for example, with your product. And make sure when it comes to payment, you're negotiating favorable payment terms. Make sure it's within your cash flow needs and your financial goals, as this is going to be a long run of things, and you're going to want to get cash in as much as possible, when you do need it. Now, you're going to probably run into contracts, and you're going to probably have to create terms and conditions, and you're going to probably have to get distribution agreements. In my opinion, if you don't know legal writing or legal language, I would recommend contacting a lawyer so that they can help draft these specific contracts and also give you some understanding of what's going on in these contracts and why you might need them. They know the law of the land, basically, and they probably have done it so many times. So I would also make sure you look at a lawyer that's in business law and that focuses on these types of contracts, all right? Now, let's say you've done all the contracts, you got all the pricing down, and you had 3 months under your belt selling at said store. What's after the fact? Well, I can tell you, it's building relationships. Now, just like anything in life, friends, family, if you want to keep those people around, you're going to want to make sure you have great relationships. So this is no different. These are your business partners, essentially. They're the ones that are selling your product and keeping you afloat, if you will. So you're going to want to build those relationships. So a couple things. You're going to want to maintain as much communication. So giving them regular updates. So providing them with things that are happening with your product, new things that are coming down the line, and any promotion. But more importantly, I think the biggest thing you're going to want to stay on top of is addressing any issues. If there's any issue with your product, make sure to immediately let them know. And this is going to be crucial in maintaining that relationship. In terms of regular updates, you might even want to consider like a newsletter of some kind to keep them updated on your everything, as it can maybe get a little cumbersome the more stores you have to be able to tell each store what's going on in regular updates. So these are two things I would recommend when maintaining communications. And in terms of promotional support, I would recommend when you are doing promotions, create some engaging ones, especially if they're in store. This is going to help boost your product visibility and drive sales. And I'll give you an example of one that caught my eye recently. It was actually with, so I go to the gym a lot. So I love my pre-workout. I love my energy drink. So there was actually an energy drink called BusDev. And I saw an ad actually on Instagram that was talking about how they would actually, if I filled out a form with my number, phone number, stuff, my number and my name, they would actually send me a text, and I would just have to submit my receipt of my purchase of 2 BusDev cans at a 7-Eleven. And they would essentially Venmo me, since my phone number is linked to my Venmo. And I started seeing more of these, and it was pretty cool and pretty, very easy way of getting your contact list of customers. So that is an example of an in-store promotion. And I've seen these even not just at 7-Eleven, but also if you go to a Walmart or if you go to Target or any store really, I've seen those types of promotions. So try to create some really engaging in-store promotions. And more importantly, with these promotions, I would recommend doing some collaborations and talking to the retailers and seeing if there's a way to collaborate with them. One of the success stories, which we'll actually talk about later in this presentation, is with this content creator called Mr. Beast. And actually, when he was launching his updated version of his chocolate bar, as he's selling chocolate bars, he actually did a video, I believe, at Walmart. Just like a quick little short video, basically seeing people at Walmart, seeing whoever, gets a chocolate bar, they would get $1 million or some crazy amount. As he's a content creator that's known for giving out money to individuals in need. So he actually was at a Walmart, and he actually did that. And so that was a really cool collaboration there. So talk to your retailers. Find some creative ways of how you can do some cool collaborations with them, as that's going to be invaluable to your brand and your brand being sold at that retailer. All right. Ensuring compliance. Now, this is after the fact. This is after you've been in the store. Make sure you're following all those health and safety regulations. And again, you can go back in this video and find that slide that has that list of resources. They are going to be useful in making sure you're staying up to date, as you want to make sure you're protecting your consumers and avoiding any legal issues. This is going to help with trust from the consumer side, and it's going to have them come back to you. And also, make sure you're adhering to labeling laws. This is going to provide the consumer with accurate product information and obviously meet legal requirements. Just put yourself in the customer's shoes. If you were a customer and you saw a product and there was something that was not listed on that label, would you buy that product again, or would you not? So kind of when you're looking at this compliance, it might be annoying, but it actually, I recommend putting yourself in their shoes and seeing why this is important. And this is ultimately, is a 2-in-1 type of thing. You're, obviously following guidelines and rules and laws, but you're also making sure the customer is safe and is going to want to come to your brand because they love it. All right. Quality control. This is also a big thing when it comes to after the fact and ensuring compliance. Make sure you're doing regular inspections. So, make sure your product quality is great and you're meeting the right safety standards. I'll give you an example of a recent product that has gotten a lot of attention on social media. Alani, another energy drink company, a lot of customers were actually starting to find little mice in their energy drink, which is gross. It's very, very gross. And honestly, if you were a customer, if I found a mice in my energy drink can, I would never buy that brand again. And this is why you're going to want to do inspections and audit your manufacturing process to make sure Stuff like that doesn't happen, right? But more importantly, if you throughout this audit process see anything wrong with the product and you have to do a product recall, make sure you're doing that immediately. And I would suggest even before starting to sell your product at a store, create some sort of strategy when it comes to product recalls, as you don't want to be frantically trying to learn how to implement a strategy on a product recall, as you want that to be nipped in the butt as fast as possible. So make sure you have a great product recall procedure in place to address any type of safety issues quickly and responsibly. Now, distribution and logistics. When you're choosing a distributor, make sure you're evaluating all the options out there. Just don't pick one, pick maybe 2 or 3. Try to diversify where you're getting your distribution, who your distributor is, and make sure you're also getting really tight sealed distribution agreements to define roles, responsibilities, and expectations with your distributors. And you're going to want to make sure you're picking the right distributors, because you're going to want to monitor stock levels, and you want to ensure you can meet demand without overproducing. And these distributors are really going to help manage those stock levels and make sure you're not getting too low. So it's going to be up to you, but if you are able to be on top of stock levels and your distributors are able to get your product out there fast, you're going to be fine. Also, I would recommend, streamlining your order fulfillment processes to deliver products efficiently and keep customers satisfied. If a customer has been waiting for weeks, maybe a month or 2, to get a product, they could probably get this weighed from the brand. I'll give you an example. Like myself, it's not a food product, but it's this company called Scrub Daddy, which you probably have heard of or seen on Shark Tank. They actually had this like toilet brush wand that had really cool eco-sustainable tablets that would dissolve, in the water. But you would basically swish it in the water, and it would activate it, and it would be used to clean the toilet bowl. And then usually you would have leftovers. So what I would do was I would open up the water canister or the water supply, and I just put it in there, and it would dissolve and make sure the water is clean and fresh. Well, I needed more, and I couldn't find any physically in store, and I was getting frustrated. I looked everywhere. I looked Target, Walmart, everywhere where they were sold, and I couldn't find it. And even on their website, they were not available. And so I was like, I spent like $50-ish on their actual like wand, which I can't use with any other type of refill cartridge. So personally, I'm kind of getting annoyed, and I really don't want to order online. So this is what I'm talking about with satisfaction. You want to make sure you're fulfilling your orders properly, and you're getting your product out there on a consistent basis, okay? Now, when it comes to technology, you should leverage it as best as possible. Now, physical stores, might not be the pathway you might have chosen, because the specific demographic you're going after probably doesn't go to stores that often. So you might want to look at e-commerce platforms, things like Amazon or even Walmart. I don't know if you knew this, but Walmart actually has an online platform. And so utilizing online sales channels as well as physical sales channels will greatly expand your market reach and overall increase sales, as you now have 2 sales channels that you're going through. But more importantly, when you are going the online route, you are going to have to tap into even more digital marketing and creating strategies for that. So when you did do a physical product, You might not have to do that as much. You might have done like a hybrid, but especially when it comes to digital, people are not just naturally finding your product, usually. So you're going to want to make sure you have a good strategy in place when it comes to selling on these e-commerce platforms. Now, when it comes online or any type of, let's say you're selling in store, there's platforms out there that you can actually analyze your data. But more importantly, this applies to the online side of things. You're going to want to track your sales, monitor your sales data. This is going to help you make informed business decisions and also identify trends and ultimately measure the performance of each individual store. More importantly, the data is going to help give you insights on your customer. This is going to help better understand things like sizes, right? Maybe you have two different sizes of chips, for example, and you might notice that more people through the course of 3 months ordered more of your bigger size chips. So you might slowly stop, producing as much small bag chips. You might want to do more large chips. So having this data and analyzing it, you'll be able to, better improve what your product offerings are and ultimately understand what your customers' preferences are. And I would just recommend ask your customers. Put out a survey. Maybe chat with them on social media. Figure out what their preferences are, and that will also help you improve your product offerings. Now, here are some success stories of products that started in stores or started from somewhere else and went into stores. So we'll start with the top left. So I talked about Mr. Beast and his chocolate bar called Feastables, but pretty much let me tell you the background. So Mr. Beast, really big content creator, uses platform, used social media to basically be able to successfully sell this product. And he was able to see what customers liked and what they wanted just from his videos. He was able to hear, or see his target demographic too, because he made videos and the most amount of people that are watching it were little kids. So he launched at Walmart. I think he's at Target too, but it was super cool because he did another video where he actually did a blind taste test of his chocolate bar with Hershey's and some other popular chocolate candy bars. And he even partnered, I think at Walmart, he has like a whole cutout of him with holding, a bunch of Mr. Beast chocolate bars. So he's a great example of someone who started from a social media type of influence and went into selling a physical product. And you might want to do something similar. Maybe you're not a content creator, but maybe you have an amazing product and you maybe wanted TikTok influencers or content creators to review the product or go out and grab the product. It's pretty doable to do that nowadays, especially on platforms like TikTok, where you can actually tap into the creator market, if you will. The next one is Kodiak. Kodiak pancakes, or Kodiak cakes, I should say, they started off with making pancake mixes. And they started doing this at home, and after they did it at home, it was so popular that they actually started selling it at farmers markets, I believe. And more importantly, they were in Shark Tank. Shark Tank was probably where you probably have heard of Kodiak cakes. And it really transformed into a brand where it was one of the few brands that had protein pancakes and protein waffles. And later it got invested into big celebrities, like I believe Zac Efron endorses it. But Kodiak is a really cool way of getting a product that maybe wasn't started by an influencer, but got really popular through the online channels, through a TV show or individuals on TikTok reviewing it. And Rancho Gordo is another example of this product that went from farmer's market to online distribution. So Rancho Gordo, the individual who did create these beans, actually is in Napa Valley in California, and he was shopping for tomatoes one August, and he actually noticed I believe it was these like tomatoes that were too ripe, or little tomatoes, and he actually saw potential to make some beans. So he actually cultivated his first beans, which are probably one of his most popular ones. And I believe it was the heirloom bean, the Rio Zapes, which are not up here. But basically, he sold it first at farmers markets. He trialed it out, and people loved it so much that they were asking him to ship it around the world, and it became this very big international brand, and recognized for its taste for these beans. And furthermore, he actually has programs now where he's actually getting specific farmers in South America to create specific beans that can't be grown in Napa Valley, for example. So this is also a great way of showing a story where this product was actually not really popular in physical stores, but people requested for him to sell it online. So he knew what his consumers' preferences were, and he saw this need to sell internationally. So these are 3 success stories. I recommend you highly look into these companies and find out more about how they went about going about their brands. And if you have any questions, or if you know of any success stories with food products that started maybe at a farmer's market or started smaller and was then able to be successful at stores, comment that down below. And again, I'm going to have a link to the intake form for our Food Business Center here in the state of Nevada down in the description as well, in case if you have a business that you're starting up in the food space that is sourcing locally within here in Nevada. We'd love to learn more and learn how we can help you, as we have a ton of resources and potential funding opportunities for you. So make sure to find that in the description, and if you have any questions, again, make sure to comment that. Anyways, thank you so much. Make sure to look at the next video in this two-parter, where it's getting food products into farmers markets, which is part of this whole food business type of series. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.